All right, just gonna do a little painting demo in oils. All right, let me show you guys what I'm painting. All right, so I have a 9 by 12 that I just toned the background so it's not stark white, and I'm gonna be using oils today. Ben enchanté Pierre. Peut-être un de ces jours, je ferai des leçons en français. Français canadien. Eh bien, voilà. OK. Super. The lemon iced tea. Okay, sorry about that. Just got sidetracked there. Okay, so I'm doing a 9 by 12. I toned the background with some raw sienna. I use an acrylic to tone the background because, of course, acrylic's going to dry really quick, and acrylic is impermeable, and it makes a really, really good foundation. Because if I did this in oil, then I'd have to wipe it down, wait for it to dry a little bit, 15, 20 minutes. Didn't really feel like doing that. So raw, I use. You could even buy the cheap acrylics. Like I use the Liquitex Basics. You could get a nice big bottle, and then just tone it. All right. So for the colors, I have. Let me start with the basics. All right. I have cad yellow medium. I have yellow ochre. I have Prussian blue, and I have not Indian yellow, but I got the cad yellow deep. That one's from Gamblin. I have alizarin crimson. I also have cad red medium, ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, burnt umber, titanium white. I'm not even using this green up there, so. Yeah, it's hot down here. It's really hot. I'm in my garage and I'm like, already it's like the temperature is ridiculous. All right, so let's get started. So I'm gonna use, let me see, I could use some ultramarine blue. What I'm gonna do is just, let me see, divide up the screen here. The tree is like right about, the height's right about here, and it goes all the way up to like down here. There's another tree here. So that's how I usually figure out, when you look at the picture, how you can figure out, look how far up from the screen or your reference photo it is, and look how far down. So this is how you find your reference point, without having to go through the grid method. That's one trick of doing it. So, and then the overall shape of the tree, it's just basically a line straight down. There's like a lot of, and it goes like basically in this shape, like that, and then actually it goes even further out like this. There's one tree that comes down like that, and there's another that comes down about the same. And then there's the background. This would be about as all as I need as far, and there was like water here somewhere. Comes up about this far. This is basically all I'll need. Oh, okay. Yeah, you could, some companies you could turn traditional paint into water mixable oils. They sell the medium, which you can mix with your paint to make it water mixable. I've seen it before, but I have a problem right now. I like water mixable, but the problem I'm telling you right now is that it takes a long time to dry. I don't know why. It stays tacky longer. I don't know if water gets trapped under the paint or whatever. It doesn't evaporate fast enough while the oil paint oxidizes. I don't know, there's something, but eventually it dries. Okay, eventually it dries. It just, for some reason, takes too long. Like if I do with traditional oils the way I do it, in about 2 days, thing is dry, to the touch at least. I leave it for a week and a half before I, put Gamvar, which you could varnish when it's touch dry. Okay, it doesn't have to be bone dry; it could be touch dry. So anyway, Let me start with, okay, so first I'm going to start with the darks and my oils, okay? Close to dark. Now I could use ultramarine blue and burnt umber to make my dark, but the darks that I see on this tree in particular is more like a cool dark green. So for the cooler dark green, I'm going to use Prussian blue. All right. Don't use too much of Prussian blue because it's pretty strong, and a little bit of burnt sienna. It'll make a nice dark green. So I can see some of that green here. I see it, you know, running down through here a little bit. I see a little bit of more burnt sienna in this general vicinity. I'm going to use a little bit of medium to make the paint move a little bit. Maybe a little bit more Prussian blue. Let me add a little bit of cad yellow medium. And the reason why I'm making a cool green is because the highlights are more on the warm side. So it's nice to see when you have a cool green, you want a warm to counteract it. If you can have a warm, then you want to use a cool to counteract it. It just works out nicer that way. Yeah, Gamvar is great. All right, so I see also a little bit of yellow ochre on the top of that tree. Now the yellow ochre, what's nice about that, it's a warm green, and it's not too chromatic, meaning it's not too pure of a color. It will be more muted. It's a more muted green. I like it. And then any kind of green that I put on top of that, it's going to be really nice. It's going to, like, you know, highly chromatic green. It's going to make it really look nice. Now I'm going to use a little bit of ultramarine blue, cad yellow for a different kind of green up here. Just like that. Now the trees here, let me see, I'm gonna leave them blue. Let me start working on this background. Let's use this color that I have here, probably more on the blue side, because it's more in the distance. Maybe a little bit of yellow ochre, a little bit more white, add a little bit of spirit. Makes it flow a little bit easier. And you know, those of you, and I'm going to repeat now, I will always repeat myself because some people are just now joining me, you know, new to my channel, new to my website, new to my page. I paint in a very impressionistic style, if you didn't notice. So, and this is what I teach. There you go. I'm trying to teach you the basics of making a painting as a new painter, and how to do a quick painting instinctively. All right, so where you don't have to think about it too much, and you're in a hurry and you like want to capture the scene if you've always wanted to paint. Well, that's what I'm trying to teach you, how to build confidence. All right, now there's branches coming off this tree here. They're like a little bit, let me show you the picture. All right, so let me see. Actually, this goes a little bit higher, seems like. Let me see, Prussian blue. But then again, you know, it doesn't have to be exactly the same. Remember, it's just a reference photo. There you go. And notice that I didn't even bother with detail. Clean my brush off. Now these little leaves that come on this tree here, watch what I'm going to do. A little bit of red, a little bit of yellow ochre. because it'll make like a muted orange color. And if I want to mute it a little bit more, add a little bit of blue. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of white because they're not really that dark of red here. They're hanging around like this. A little bit here. There's some faded up here, some here, like that. And you're like, well, what the hell is he doing? Well, you'll see. You'll see what I'm doing. There's some of that color down here. I see it as well. Because what's going to happen is once I start painting the sky all through here, right? Then you'll understand. I'll start cutting in through these and then making them look like big clumps of leaves and stuff like that. You see what I mean? So, and this actually goes a little bit further, like all the way up to here. So let me put a little bit more yellow ochre. Yeah, this has more volume. Like that. Yeah, like this. Actually, I'm gonna have to cut through here a little bit. There you go. All right. Let me work on some of the grasses here. I see some cool greens and I see some warm greens, and we're gonna play around with that. So I'm gonna use the Prussian blue, yellow deep, cad yellow deep, and I'm gonna go, let me see, maybe a little bit of white. Just really quick. And notice I'm not filling in all the spaces, right? Just wherever I see a little bit of that color. I see some more like warm greens on this side. You can make a dark green as well by adding red, as you can see right here. There's like a little shadow plant right here as well. A little bit more red. Makes it a little bit like brownish color. There's like shadow as well here and here, because the sun's coming from this direction. And I see a little bit of darks here as well. A little bit of burnt sienna with this green. And you can see that I'm mixing these colors kind of together, right? Because in nature, everything's kind of mixed, right? Nothing is like one color. Everything's pretty mixed together. And let me see, I see a little bit of here, that color here as well. All right. And you notice, I let some of the background show. We're going to fix that in a few minutes. Hey, Corey. I'm glad you made it. Thank you for stopping by. So I left some of these colors open because the other colors are going to go in there. You don't want to make the whole thing like, one color right off the bat. You're going to work all over the canvas, and then eventually things are going to come together. All right. Because in oils, unlike acrylics, you got to either plan this a little bit ahead of time, because they don't dry quick like acrylics, when acrylics you can fix everything right off the bat. You can glaze right away. You can like do whatever you want. Oil has rules. Acrylics is honey badger. It does not have rules. Hardly any, if any. So I'm working a little bit everywhere around, and then eventually I make final decision where everything goes. So in the background, as you get further back here, the colors are going to be more muted, all right? It's going to be more of a muted green because it's out in the distance. So what I'm going to do is use that yellow ochre, mix it with that green here, maybe a little bit of more blue, ultramarine blue is what I used, a little bit more white, And remember, the difference between oils and acrylic as well is that oil has more of a covering power. Meaning you could go over another color with oils and cover really good. All right, see how that green came out muted in the background? Just like that. I'm not too worried about these trees. I could go back and fix all that. See, now that gives it distance. Now you got these colors that are brighter and darker up front. In the back, more of the muted colors because it's at a distance. It's not important. There you go. That's just the way the eye sees it. And I see there's some water here, but first I'm going to start working a little bit on the sky, and then I'm going to bring the whole thing together. Because what's going to happen, because I used medium odorless mineral spirit, it usually, helps the paint dry quicker. Even if you're using like a liquid original, liquid fine, or any kind of alkyd, it will help the paint dry quicker. So by me leaving this alone, I'm just giving it a little bit of time to set up. Meaning I'll be able to go over it with thicker paint afterwards. And I keep my paint thin at the beginning with oils. You want to keep your paint thin for your base colors and work your way thick. Even if you're doing it a la prima, meaning all in one sitting, your initial colors that you lay down are going to be thin. All right? And then you're going to work thicker, thicker, and thicker with more medium, more oil. Because it's all going to dry at once. But if you're going to go back and do a painting, like I said, I started this today, and then tomorrow I'm going to, add on to it. This will dry fast enough to where I can lay out other colors on top. If I did this thick, somewhat, and it was somewhat dry, and then came back tomorrow, I did a little bit thinner paint on top of that, well, within a few years or so, the paint's going to start cracking because the base layer did not have enough time to dry, and it, just like anything else, it will move, and it will make the thinner layer on top crack. That's what happens. The movement will make it crack. So to avoid that, start thin, work your way thick, either with more medium or thicker paint. All right, now we got that out of the way. Let's do the sky. Probably need a bigger brush for the sky. What the hell? Let me just use this brush. It'll work. All right. So for the sky, let's use ultramarine blue, lots of white, maybe a hint of yellow deep. Let's see what that gives us. Maybe a little bit more yellow. More white. The reason why I used the cad yellow deep was because it was going to be more of a muted, it's got a little bit of red in there, so it's going to give me like a grayish sky. Let me add more yellow. Apparently I need more of that. This is from Gambling. All right. I'm going to change the sky up a little bit. And look how I'm just painting through it really quick. All right? Because Mother Nature, if you're going to be out there, is not going to wait on you to decide on your color scheme and whatnot. Now, I should have used a bigger brush, yes, but I didn't have one just sitting in front of me, so I'm going to use what I have. Okay, I'm out in the field. I forgot my big brush. Make something happen. So now I'm going to use a little bit of this Cad Red Medium. Make some nice pink salmon sky. Notice I mixed it a little bit. me see. This is like kind of ad lib here. I'm just. This is where sculpting comes in. Let me see. I'm trying to figure out how I want to do the sky. Make something a little bit. You don't have to be stuck to your reference photo. You could change things up the way you want it to be. Put a little bit more medium on my brush. And see, because the paint was thin when I laid it down, I'm able to go over it and cover the colors that were there. Almost like a kid with crayons, you know? Very impressionistic. I kind of like the way this is kind of working out here. Let me see. Because then when I put the highlights, it's going to look really nice. Now this right here, I'm going to cut into this. Watch. I'm going to sculpt that tree a little bit. I didn't like the way the shape ended up being. This red is pretty powerful. Shit. Now the paint, watch. I used it a little bit thicker. And watch what I'm going to do here. There you go. You see? I may be able to cut and shape it. Now the sky doesn't look like this. It's just I decided to change it up a little bit. Let me show you what the sky looks like. And you can see at the end how it's all going to turn out. Okay. So what I did to this side, I have to do to this side. I'm cutting in. Basically, I'm shaping the tree. Not being too careful. And I'm not trying to fill every void on that tree, as you can notice. Okay. More blue, I guess, towards the horizon. Maybe add a little bit more yellow ochre. Give it a little bit more warmth. Just like that. Okay. And this is the beginning stage where a lot of artists will tend to give up because they're going to think, oh, it looks ugly. It's just not right. It's not perfect. They're looking for details at this point, and this is your worst mistake. Okay? Your worst mistake. Don't go for details in the beginning. Don't do that. Lay down your values, make sure they're right. When I say value, how dark or how light something is, how light or how dark, I think I said. So, an example, a value of 0 will be like white. A value of 10 will be black. Right now I'm somewhere in between those two, okay? You make sure your values are correct before you worry about your colors. And then once I have my values and most of the canvas painted in, then I could go back with a little bit more detail and finish most of the stuff, okay? See, around the leaves that I did here, making these little sky holes, sky holes. All right, and we're gonna do more sky holes in a tree. But right now, I'm just trying to get the basics. Okay, now we got most of the canvas here covered. Let me go back to working some of this stuff here. All right, now I'm gonna start adding some mid-tone color. Some of the greens are cool and some of the greens are warm. Now be mindful of how the landscape is going. So this area is kind of flat. So you can see I'm doing like flat strokes. If it was more out of an angle, you see more of my angle stroke, you know, pointing the shape this way at this angle. But because it was just like a flat go around the tree, kind of a pathway, which I will indicate afterwards. And there was like a bunch of plants coming through here. There's some warm greens here as well. There's some tall grasses here. All I did was just use a little bit of this color that I had sitting over here because it's about the same color. So I'm using this dark color as a base color for that, for those grasses. So now you can almost see there's a shape building this kind of contour. And you notice I'm painting fast and I'm not really paying attention to all the details, right? I'm just going instinctively. What do I see really quick? How's it going? How's the landscape going? This is all you need to remember is that, okay? I don't mean to be high speed or whatnot, but I'm just showing you just how to paint instinctively. Just think about the color. Is it warm? Is it cool? How's the landscape? Is it slanted? Just follow the shape and the contours of that landscape. Okay, so now there's a little bit of water here in the background. Let me do that. A little bit of this Prussian blue because this looks like a more of a cooler color. Yep, it's about the right color. All right, now where am I going? So I see a little bit more brownish hues here. There's leaves going this way. There's some using that same color. Yellow ochre. Maybe a little bit of blue. There's some going like this. It's okay if they mix. Some in the background. There you go. There's probably even some here I see. I'm going around the bend here, where there's tracks where people were walking. All right, now all the paint is kind of thin right now. Now we're gonna start getting into it. All right, so I'm gonna carry on. Now let's see, where am I gonna go with this? So now I'm gonna start working on this tree a little bit. And I'm gonna start using thicker colors. Let me see. All right. So now let me just do the branch of this tree. So I'm gonna do some burnt umber. Burnt sienna, maybe a little bit of blue. Notice I'm holding my brush. There's a couple branches sticking out here somewhere. Some branches here as well. You don't have to do every branch, okay? Just whatever works and helps the painting. And then let me do this. These trees over here. That's not the final color of the branch of the trunk. I'm just laying out a base. Okay. All right. And so now I'm using these cheap $7 brushes here. Just to show you what you can do really quick, even with cheap brushes, to give an idea of to the viewer what you're doing. Okay, there's that. Okay, because these brushes are hog bristle. They're bristle brushes, they're not synthetic, and they pick up a lot more paint. So now I'm just starting to use a little bit thicker and thicker paint. I'm just laying out a few foundations that I'm going to need for later on. Okay, so I can see yellow, maybe a little bit of yellow deep, and maybe perhaps a little bit of Prussian blue here. All right, this. Now, the one mistake that a lot of people make is not putting enough paint on their brushes. And this is the part where you might want to start using some linseed oil to give it more fat, to give that fat over lean rule with oils. Now, as we get towards the shadow, the colors are going to be a little bit cooler green. I'm letting some of these colors mix back here because there are some warm colors. I do see a little bit of reddish orange colors peeking through some of these. So, just thought I'd tell you that. I don't know what happened here. Use some of this warm yellow up here for the background. There you go, that works. Maybe a little bit more blue. Since it's at a distance. I use blue for my darks as opposed to, you know, really dark color, because anything that's at a distance, blue will be a color to go, because with receding colors, blue is usually the last color that you'll see. It goes like you lose yellow, then you lose red, then all you got left is blue. Okay, so where was I going with this? Oh yeah, so now I'm going to start working and building out the trees a little bit more, and then probably work the sky a little bit more as well. Split primary with warms and yes, something like that. Yes, ma'am. Okay, where am I going? Okay, let me switch off brushes and pick up more paint. We're gonna do thick amount of yellow, white. Here, let me get some green for you so you can see. Oh, let's see. Where are you, big guy? Let me get some Viridian green in there so you can see the difference. Just one that I had sitting around. Viridian green is very strong, so be careful. Even though the highlights are not that strong in the actual reference photo, now you got to do light touches, barely kissing the canvas here, and the paint's got to be thick. And add a little bit of medium so that the paint will release easier off your brush. You've seen me use these with acrylics, and they work very well with oils as well. They pick up a lot of paint. Actually, even let me use a little bit of burnt sienna with Prussian blue to make a different kind of green. You want to vary your greens, okay? See, this gives it a little bit more of a grayed out green, which is great because then any bright colors you put next to it will really pop by muting the colors right next to it. These are some leaves falling off or hanging off this tree here. Some here as well. All right. Now, when I said earlier that I use like, I start out with my darks, right? And sometimes I go with the middle value, like not too dark, not too light. Watch what I'm gonna do here because I see some spots where there needs to be darker. So I can use Prussian blue, burnt umber, maybe a little bit of cad yellow deep. Watch. See, darken up some of these areas here. Actually, instead of even use, I could even use a little bit of red, just to warm up some of the parts of it. Just make sure it's nice. The paint that you have on your, there you go. You see the difference now? How the colors are popping out a little bit more? And I could go into greater details with this tree even more if I want. Not details as in, you know, make the perfect leaves and all that. What I'm talking about is detail. I could go a little bit more as I could add a little bit more to this. Like, all right, let me just show you. Be easier. Let me add a little bit of purplish color. Right, let me add this little bit of yellow. Make this really dirty purple here. Add this greenish yellow to it. A little bit more white. Watch. Just some accent colors here and there. Just very subtle. Will make some of these highlights really pop. Okay, so this tree some cool greens here, there. All right, I can go forever with this. Okay, so now let me start concentrating on some of the areas over here. Same thing as what I did with the tree here. use some thicker color, white, yellow. There's some highlights here on the road. Just to indicate the curvature here. There's some different kind of greens here in the back. These are for these tall reeds. And even some of these tall reeds have like some darkish green. Colors at the base of them. Not everywhere, just, you know, some odds and ends right there, so you can read the landscape out well. You know, there's some shadow spots here and there. Actually, there is. And look, I'm using all this dirty color here to make, there's another like tree that was like right here. And notice I went up, down, I'm gonna go up a little bit as well. Now that tells you the landscape is not so flat. It tells you like this area was like slanted and you're just following the curvature of the road here. There's another shadow right here as well. So now you kind of see, even when I'm not teaching, this is basically the process that I go through. I'm just teaching you live the same process. I'm not even trying to, you know, pretend here. This is basically the process that I use every time I do a painting. I'm showing you the real deal here. Because sometimes some of you, I notice I feel like either insecure about what you did. Am I doing this wrong? Why is it not coming out like he's doing it? I go through some of the things too. I mean, sometimes a color just did not work. So you got to change it up. All right. It doesn't always work for you. You just got to work through the issue. Sometimes I've had issues when I taught, like, you know, live classes. It just happens. There's some highlights I need to make. If your highlights are not showing up, it's probably because the color right next to it is too light. Your surrounding colors are too light or close to the same value, or not muted enough to show or to reflect. I know there's some cooler greens as well here. Some here. Sometimes there's other colors in the palette that you can use to continue on with your painting. There's some cooler greens here as well. A little bit of burnt sienna, just to gray down this green, because burnt sienna's got some red in it, so it's going to make like a grayish green. You can almost tell right here just by looking at it. Add some medium. And I'm not trying to make every single green that I see here. It's just whatever catches my eye at the moment. There you go. There's some more. Let me use some of this Viridian green. Since I have it on here, might as well. Make some really bright highlights. Because the sun, like I said, was coming from the left side of that tree. I'm just showing the bank of that slant right here. So see now? See how it's showing this little path? You can almost discern it, you know, and say, oh yeah, I can see the path now. Put more of this red with this yellow ochre, white. Against some of that green, because a lot of greens here. So this red and yellow ochre will mute down some of this green and just add more interest to the landscape. I'm using thicker and thicker paint. I need to put out some more reds here. Shit. That was a mistake here, but that's okay. We're going to use it to our advantage. Just use a little bit of yellow. Even some more green. We'll make it look like grasses or whatnot. Okay. You could even use your sgraffito. What I like about this brush as well, that has a pointed back here. It's on canvas panel. It's on canvas panel. Canvas panel. Sorry. So now I'm just scratching the paint where all these darks are. Make it look like tall grasses. And then I could, if there was something I didn't like, add these bits. Add some darks here, there, to discern light from dark. Light. Maybe some of this color that I have is like a greenish, bluish, gray color. which would be great because there's a lot of green. So as the light reflects, hits some of these colors, it will bounce off and hit the trees. So I'm using, it's a 9x12, Jane, 9x12. There you go. So look how I'm using the brush, okay? Not how I'm using, how I'm holding the brush. It's got a little bit of yellow ochre to it too as well. Yeah, that yellow ochre really helped. There's another one. Here. As we go up the tree, same thing. Now I'm going to add a little bit of blue back here to indicate this is in shadow. And as we go up the tree, I need a thinner brush. Let me see. Let me use this. It's more of a yellow ochreish color. Because the paint is thick, I want to thin it down a little bit with the solvent. So watch. There you go, the sun's hitting. Same down here. And if the colors didn't work out right away, or I was not able to place a thick amount of color, I could always go back when the paint's a little bit dry and do it up even more, have more of a pure color. So I'm going to work on some of these leaves in a few minutes. I want to work on this sky a little bit more. Work on some of that red. Shit. See, I can feel some of these, the paint set up a little bit, because I can feel the paint dragging, which is a good indication that the background had dried a little bit already. I'm making like these C shape, but just really quick. And then probably a little bit more red. I'm just like back and forth, how much red, how much yellow, cooler, warmer. See what works. There you go. Sculpt some of this. As I get towards the base, more red, a little bit of blue, make it like this darker purple color. Since it's a little bit further away from the source, and it will indicate that these clouds are a little bit closer to you and a little bit further away from the source of light. And let me make some sky holes. There you go, just like that. Just trying to get some of these markings off. Okay. All right, let me go back to these branches here. Actually, shape this a little bit more. Now you want to keep the colors pretty well diluted with I'm using a good amount of linseed oil. One second, let me add some more. I put it in here in a little cup. Not much is needed. Because I want it to have a good amount of drying time. And these brushes, these cheapo brushes, hold a lot of paint. And notice how the colors of these clouds are popping even more. You remember what I told you? If your colors are not popping, it's either the color next to it is too light, or meaning the same value, or close to the same value, or it's not muted enough. That's why I added that yellow, Indian yellow, the India yellow, whatever you know, from Gamblin, because what it did, India yellow has some red into it, and when you add it with white, blue, and what it does is it mutes down that blue a lot. Okay. Here, let's put some color notes of that blue here and there. It's okay if it mixes. There. Now I can see a better transition between the colors. And I'm really using the color, applying the color very lightly. Here, I added some of it here, just slightly. Basically what it does when I'm doing this is making it look like those clouds were thin, and you can see some of the background color of the sky into it. There you go. Just mix it in somewhat. There you go. I hope this was helpful to you. Did you like the session? You know what? Hold on. Let's just, I wanted to put a little bit of life back there. Like maybe a couple little birds, you know, that's usually my signature thing, but you know what? No, I'm going to leave it alone. I'm going to leave it alone. I'm going to leave this where it is, the way it is, and I'm going to sign it. Call it done. If I change my mind later on, I'll do so. But for right now, I'm going to call it a day. So let me just sign my signature, and let me see. There you go. And later on I could actually add a little bit more highlight here to draw your eye in here a little bit more. So there you go. Hope you guys enjoyed this session, and happy painting, I guess, right? You guys could try and replicate this painting if you want on your own time, you know, or try and practice. I hope you had a lot of good, useful information from this, and that you could apply to your everyday paintings. This had time to dry just a little bit. Let me see if I can. There you go. All right. That'll do it, folks. Thank you for joining me, and I'll try and catch up with you on the next painting. Be kind, share this with a friend, and leave any comments you may have, and I'll be sure to answer them for you at a very convenient time. I'm pretty good about replying to comments. All right. So you guys have a great evening. Thank you very much for joining. Bye-bye.